Right, so we come to part one of this DVD, and in this little video now, I'm just going to tell you your main plans that you need to know after the moves d4, d5. So this is going to be quite general, and general tips that are really going to be your basis and your foundation for playing the London system. So I think this is key for you to know. Now, I will also mention the move order, which I think is precise to play here. And the move order I'm recommending is bishop to f4. And we like this move because against the move d5, so specifically against d5, we want to go c3 and e3. And our bishop, when we put our pawns on c3 and e3, wants to be outside of the pawn structure. So I talked about this pyramid you create here. Your bishop wants to be outside the pyramid because it will have better range. If you have your bishop stuck inside the pyramid, it won't be taking part in the game. So this is why bishop f4 is the move I'm recommending. Now, knight to f3 is a move that a lot of people use to get into the London system, with the specific idea of going bishop to f4 next. Now, the reason I'm not going to include this as my recommendation, and I think I should talk about this so you can understand why, and this is probably a more popular way of playing it, is that it's not as flexible as bishop to f4, and it also allows black to play what I think is a very good equalising line, and we don't want to allow black to equalise straight away. And that is with the moves knight to f6, and now, if we continue in our standard fashion with bishop to f4, getting the bishop outside of the pyramid, black can now play the c5 move immediately here, and this is, in my eyes, the best move for black. If white ever takes on c5, you lose your centre, and black can quickly get that pawn back, even with a queen a5 check. Generally, as a rule, I don't want to take on c5. As a general rule, when black plays c5, you don't capture on c5. Of course, there are times we break that rule, but generally we want to go e3 and c3, keeping our pawn on d4. And if we go e3 now, trying to get our pyramid, black can go knight to c6, and here if we go c3, which is being played a lot, and this is, I believe, a common mistake by a large majority of people who play the London system. They play these moves, but there is a problem, and the problem here, and one of the main ideas that black has in the London system, is that black can now play a very annoying move, queen b6. And this is an annoying move for a couple of reasons. Number one, because our bishop is outside the pyramid where it belongs, because we don't want our bishop stuck in the pyramid, queen b6 does nibble away at our pawn on b2. Now, as a general rule, there are two ways you should deal with queen b6. One rule is queen b3. Queen b3 is your normal way to prevent the capture of the b2 pawn. So this is your first thing you should be thinking of. In some particular cases, after the move queen b6, obviously not in this position, which is an inferior move order, I believe that white can play knight to c3. But of course, you can't play that if there's a pawn on c3. This is an interesting way to sacrifice a pawn. But if we can't do knight to c3 here, and we don't want to play a move like b3. b3 is a very ugly move, weakens our light squares. We don't want to play a move like queen c1, a very passive move. Queen b3 is our main objective, but now black has a very good plan. Black can play c4, and if we ever take on b6, this is not a good idea. Generally, this is something I want you to avoid doing, because a takes b6 opens up the a file for black's rook, and black has a very strong plan in b5, b4, and this is a very annoying plan. And already, actually, I prefer black here. For example, knight d2, b5, and if you try to play a move like a3, trying to stop b4, black can still play b4 because of the pin on the rook. And already black has made tremendous progress on the queen side, so we don't want to allow this. So if we go back with this move order, after queen b6, queen b3, c4, what you normally do here, and this is something you should have to remember, you normally want to play queen c2. And the objective of this move is, because black has placed a pawn on c4, Objectively, we want to attack this pawn on c4 by playing the positional move b3. So let's say black played some passive move like e6 here. Well, here b3 is a very good plan, and this would give white an advantage because the pawn on c4 can't contain itself, it must do something, and if black takes on b3, we capture with our pawn, we improve our pawn structure, we move a pawn closer to the centre, and we have a favourable pawn structure and an open a-file. But the issue with this move order is that black has a very strong move here, and that move is bishop to f5. And again, the tactical justification here is that if we go queen takes bishop, black has queen takes b2. And already white is lost here. And after bishop to f5, well, our queen has to go somewhere silly, like c1. And I think this is something we want to avoid doing. Why do we want this position? There's absolutely no reason to play into this kind of structure. So that is why I'm not recommending knight to f3 as my move order, because if black knows about that idea I just demonstrated, you're pretty much tricked into playing into this variation. But if we go bishop to f4 first, I think we avoid this idea, and this is one of the key reasons I prefer bishop f4. Let's just see why this avoids it. Well, of course, if black does the same thing, so if black plays c5 here, well, we can go e4, which is an interesting gambit, but if we go e3, sticking to our normal setup, and now black does something like knight to c6 here, then we can go c3, and after a queen b6 move at any point, it's quite distinctively different because the knight is not on f6. Let me show you why. So for example, queen b6, we can now play queen b3, our first plan against queen b6. If c4, remember we don't take queens, we want to go queen c2, and now bishop to f5 is very different here because we have the very strong move, and this works because the knight is not on this f6 square, it's still on g8. We can now take the bishop. The point being, if queen takes b2, we can now go queen takes d5. And this is an idea we couldn't do before because the knight was guarding this square, and if queen takes a1, the strong move, queen to b5. And this guards our knight, threatens to take on b7, gets ready to take on c4, and already white has a very nice advantage here. So we're stopping black's equalising idea. And after this idea, let's see if black can do anything else. Well, if black goes knight to f6 here, we have to be a bit careful about our move order here, because of course if we play the move knight to f3, we allow this equalising idea, queen to b6, and we're back into something I want to avoid. So what we should do first is to play knight to d2. And this is a much better move order in my opinion, because now if queen b6, we can go queen b3, and against c4 we can simply play queen c2, and the main point here is that bishop to f5 ideas do not work because our knight is on d2, and if bishop f5 we simply take the bishop off, and after queen takes b2 we go rook b1, we're a piece up. So we avoid these ideas, and after queen c2 we go back to our positional idea of trying to play b3 with a nice edge. So this is why generally I'm recommending bishop to f4. There is another reason I want to share with you, and it just seems to me that all the pros in this position are with bishop to f4. And the other reason is that, let's say after some plan that black might have with c5, okay, you can do this in other move orders, and we do the same thing, e3. Now let's say knight c6, and we do the correct move order, c3. Let's say knight to f6, knight to d2. And now if black goes for a setup with e6 here, we can go bishop d3, and if bishop d6, we now have a nice option, an interesting option favoured by Kramnik. Again, we can only do this option because we've left our knight on g1, and this is the positional way of playing, of exchanging that bishop off, and now an important move, pawn to f4. And of course, you wouldn't be able to move the f-pawn if the knight was on f3. Why is this a good idea? Because look at the bishops. We have swapped off our bad bishop, we've got rid of our bad bishop. It would be a bad bishop because all our pawns are on dark squares, so our bishop would be trapped. And we've left black with a bad bishop himself. This is a bad bishop because his pawn's in the centre on light squares. That bishop is trapped in behind the pyramid. So this again gives us another option of this this way of playing, and for these reasons I've just said, this is why I believe the move order bishop to f4 to be a superior move order, and the move order we're going to concentrate on. Now, in actual fact, I think just to keep this reasonably simple, I've mainly talked about the move order there and why bishop to f4 is preferred. In the next video, I think we'll break this up a little bit. I'll tell you about your main ideas when we get bishop to f4 in, even going into the middle game, and what I'm going to suggest as your setup against d5. And even before we move to any games, I want to try to get this foundation for you so you know what's happening, you know what you should be looking at, you know what you should be thinking about playing initially. So that's really a little bit about the move order there, why I prefer bishop to f4. But now we're going to move on to your standard and your best ideas, your attacking ideas against d5.